Chuck Wilder here, CRN, and let me tell you now, you spell her last name, D-V-O-R-A-K. Why do you say that right now without getting right into the opening? Because she's streaming live at Facebook, and if you want to go and search out for Kimberly Dvorak, get that last name, D-V-O-R-K. She is the award-winning National Security and Border Security Investigative Reporter for TV, radio, and the print media. Kimberly, by the way, is the Senior Foreign Policy Advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. She is a TV correspondent for CW6 News San Diego, as well as One America News Network, and her website, thekdreport.com. Kimberly Dvorak, how are you?
I'm fine, Chuck. How about yourself?
I think I am just fair to partly cloudy today.
Okay.
Hey, I got to tell you, we're going to talk about mainstream media is a fake, and then we'll get into some immigration and where the ICE releasing adult males.
Oh, yeah.
But the mainstream media, I was going to mention that last weekend, I know you're a big sports person, that the San Francisco football game with Green Bay broke the all-time ratings for football participant. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Do you remember when they said, well, football's dead, and the NFL is dead, and NBA is nothing, that's the only ones you should really be concerned about? Wow, but the ratings were unbelievable. You were probably rooting for one of the teams.
I'm a Denver Bronco fan, so sadly they did not make the playoffs. Anyways, but with regards to the over the weekend football games, what you're seeing, I think, I'm not certain that it's a newfound love for the NFL per se, but but people across this country are tired of watching what's on the TV. With the numbers coming out as far as, the inflation, the underemployment, the high gas prices, the supply chain problem that we're facing, and of course protecting Ukraine's borders, not our borders. Ukraine's borders are worth fighting for. Apparently ours are not. So I think people have just really, these new poll numbers that came out from Rasmussen, which is not a conservative outlet, it is a left-leaning outfit, shows highlighted just how upset the citizenry here is, and that they're showing their anger with them by not watching. And you're seeing the number of eyeballs on cable news as well as mainstream media continuing a downward trend.
Well, and also, when it comes to football, the Kaepernick, kneeling down, and I'm not going to honor the flag. And I read an interesting thing on Facebook. It was just one post, and it says, we don't have. I got to try to remember. We don't have the American traditional song strictly for white people, black people, green people, yellow people. It's for all people.
Yeah.
The Star Spangled Banner is not racist, but.
Well, Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that was a concession that the NFL made because they didn't want to see these people kneeling on the sideline. So they just left it up to the team as to if you wanted to stay in the locker room or you wanted to go out for the national anthem, which diffused the situation. I mean, I still think that everybody ought to probably stand up and respect our country, but this was a way to kind of appease the right and get more eyeballs back, because when Kaepernick was out kneeling every weekend, you couldn't find a football stadium that was sold out because people weren't going, and they figured that this was cutting into the bottom line of the NFL. They made the changes, and now they're starting to come back.
Yeah, you say that a new national telephone survey by Rasmussen reports finds that 58% of likely voters then at least somewhat agree that the media are truly the enemy of the people.
Yeah. Very stunning numbers.
I'm thinking it's automatically One American News and Fox. They don't fall into that category. They will if you ask the mainstream media.
Yeah.
But other than that, no.
Yeah. Well, and obviously we've watched MSNBC's numbers drop down to the teens. We see CNN just continuing the fallout. They've got to fire people over there because of just kind of these insidious situations where the Cuomos were working together to kind of diffuse the sexual harassment charges the former governor of New York. These people,
Right.
with this pandemic, people are seeing this. They're seeing more news, and they're coming to these decisions on their own.
Well, we're going to take a quick break and come right back with Kimberly Dvorak and more on her excellent report. Fake news. You're not going to get it here. Okay, now remember, the third caller wins $1 billion. No, forget that. Kimberly Dvorak. And it's thekdreport.com, and she'll have this entire report posted there a little bit later on. Be right back. Do you think that a lot of people that watch the fake news are just in denial and saying, oh, you know, this isn't happening, and CNN didn't just lose 8 million listeners and a bunch of people getting charged with sexual crimes, and Joy Reid is, she just, whatever she says is just so wonderful.
Yeah.
I think MSNBC, that's one she's on, I think they're finally getting a little wise about her, and they're going to move her somewhere.
She's leaving this. Her contract will be running out, and they keep her around until her contract runs out, and then they're letting her go. So she has plenty of time to probably maybe she can move up to CNN. Who knows? It just seems that when you look at the poll numbers, and it's kind of striking yesterday, reading, some of the questions that these pollsters were asking. I mean, and they just basically do not believe the media coverage when they say, violent crime is not really hurting anybody, yet they're seeing, young women and babies killed in the crossfire of these, gun battles between cartels and gangs. Frankly, in the streets, in any town across the United States here, people are wising up to that. And again, because of COVID, they had to stay home, and they turned on the TV, and they were watching this, and they're like, "That's not the way it is."
Yeah, crash and grab, for example.
Yeah.
The police, not the police, but the district attorneys, that the ones that are a little loopy. They hate for the news to show that that's happening.
Yeah.
No prevention of crime. And I had a story this morning, Kimberly, about how the theft of cars. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about it went from 5,000 to 9,000, in 1 year being stolen. And they said, that's because there's not enough people delivering the food. What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
really.
They're trying to cover up for the fact that, the left really does believe that the prisons need to be emptied, that the racism involved in police departments is inexcusable. We had 2 New York police officers just ambushed and murdered in New York. We're not even to February yet, and there have been 5 police officers shot. Those aren't good numbers. Those are not numbers that people are going to go to the polls. And we know that when you look at the election in the midterms, they're going to blame the party in charge, because the Democrats are in charge of the White House, the Senate, as well as Congress. They have the absolute power here, and they're doing nothing for their constituents. And people are wising up to that fact. And you're seeing the numbers, especially like out here in Richmond or in Virginia, where, they had completely, the state was run and was blue, is now all red, because people did not like the fact that their kids weren't allowed to go to school. Their kids have basically lost 2 years of education because they haven't been in a classroom. And then you're seeing again this week where, some of these school districts are not allowing children to go into the classroom without a mask, which is in direct opposition to what the governor placed, that it was going to be. He was giving that option to the parents, that the parents should figure out if they want their kids to wear a mask or not wear a mask. And and to that, people are like, well, it's my body, and you're going to hurt me. Well, I mean, okay, great, you may think that, but I thought we were all told that if you wore masks, you weren't going to get it. You weren't going to get COVID because masks work. So where are they on that side when they're looking at this thing saying, oh, okay, yeah, that's no problem. We believe in mask mandates, and you're going to get sick and die, and I won't because I'm wearing a mask. As we see the last of this pandemic come out, they are not, happy, and the stories that mainstream media is weaving is just not panning out, and the American people recognize that.
Well, in my personal opinion, Kimberly, and I've always said this since day one on the mask, that's like the Jewish yellow star. I could just see those Democrat dictators driving around in their automobiles with a couple, like maybe 4 in one automobile, saying, "Look, there's some more masks. Look,
Yeah.
look.
Yeah.
Look at all those people that are wearing those masks. Boy, we've done it, haven't we?"
Yeah, it is
terrible for children, and not only physically for children, but mentally too, because, and they point this out, and the more I hear it, the more I believe it, is that whenever you're a young child and you're in school and you're relating back and forth with your teacher and your other classmates, you've got to be able to see what your classmates look like. That's part of growing up,
Yep.
And they've already told you that the mask, it's just the children breathing in the CO2 over and over again.
Yeah, and they ought to be
ashamed of
themselves. They should be, especially since young people they're more likely to get hit by a car than die of COVID, and those are the numbers.
Or lightning.
Yeah, it's just to be.
It's still a fact that lightning is killing more people,
Yeah.
but you don't really hear about it that much. But it's they keep saying it's factual.
Yeah.
Watch out for lightning.
Oh yeah, never know when it's going to strike, huh?
You know.
Yeah, but in any event, though, I mean, you're seeing parents kind of, push back on this because now, certain schools were not following the rules, and so they've got to figure out how they're going to take care of their kids because they got to go back to work, or one of the parents has to stay home because now the kids are at home, and after a 2-year just complete calamity here within the schools across this country. I mean, the people have had it, and again, I mean, you look at what's going on in, let's say, California and the mask mandate and what they're doing for the area businesses. One day you've got to have the mask, next day you got to have a vaccine card, the next day we want you to put up plexiglass. No, don't put up the plexiglass. You can do the mask, you cannot do. It's so out of control that they have no handle on it whatsoever. And I know that the Super Bowl will be in downtown Los Angeles in a couple weeks, and what they're doing is cleaning up all the homeless encampments around the area, spending millions of taxpayer dollars to clean up the streets and move these people someplace else. So when people fly into the city and go to the Super Bowl, that they're looking at a Los Angeles that's clean. There's no homeless people, and there's more than 60,000 people that are homeless, by the way, but they're going to remove those people so people who are coming in for the football game won't actually see that. I mean, and doing...
Now, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This has got to be a report you have wrong. Okay? I mean, where are they going to get the buses to move all the homeless people, because they're using all the buses to move the illegal aliens?
Oh, yeah. They are. And airplanes.
They're going to have a bus problem.
They are going to have a bus problem. So, but yeah, I mean, it just shows you that, okay, that's really important for Los Angeles to go out and do something like that. But they're not looking after their own citizens. They're not looking after the people who live in these communities where violence is up. Murder rates are up. Sexual assault is up. Smashing grabs are up. Stealing cars. I mean, all of these things are increasing, and you've got maybe single moms, or maybe just a mom walking her kid to school. They're actually afraid to start to go out and do that because drive-by shootings are everywhere. There's been nothing but chaos on the streets out there, and the media they have not wanted to cover that because that's going to make Joe Biden look pretty bad, which he does look pretty bad right now, and they're trying to drag him across the finish line again in 2022 and convince Americans that they need to keep the Democrats in power. And they're not going to win that argument because it's people. It doesn't matter. Crime affects everybody. Healthcare affects everybody. Food shortages affects everybody. And with these things in play and the gas prices continuing to go up, people have had it. They've actually really had it. And it'll be my belief, I think, of this when the election comes around for 2022, that'll be a low turnout. And that always bodes well for the opposing party. But I think it'll be a low turnout because you're going to have some Democrats who go, well, it's better than the alternative. I'm just going to keep them there. But about half of them, they're saying no. They're gonna make the change, and they'll vote with the party that's not in power, and that would be the Republicans.
Wow, yeah. When we talk about moving people around, you have another report here about large numbers of single adult illegal immigrants are being released and then transported into the United States and Texas, and they're using these unmarked office in a parking lot, right?
Yep, in Brownsville.
So they're using buses, right?
Yeah, well, they're using buses to get them up from the border and into Brownsville, where they're going in and filling out some sort of paperwork, and so you don't actually get to see, what they're doing when they go inside the makeshift office that ICE has set up. And you're seeing, a lot of these young men who under Title 42 would have had to remain in Mexico for refugee status. They're allowing them to cross the border, come into this country now, and they are primarily male. And they are, you see a lot of them, in the footage that Fox was able to collect yesterday, they're wearing ankle monitors. And some of these people have offended, broke the law in the United States and have been under a warrant for arrest. They're allowing them to come in the country. You've got repeat border crossers. They're also allowed to come in the country now. And there's, no repercussions as far as, what happens if you commit more crime in the United States if you're not, in the country legally. And that is that, these people that are repeat offenders, they're now allowed to use their arrest warrants as ID to get on an airplane on TSA. And that's not a joke. You can use an arrest warrant to get on an airplane. And, forget about them getting the COVID test and all of that stuff. They're not doing it. And so far, the last couple months, there have been, it's 47,000 people have failed to show up to immigration court. And that's just a couple months. So, those numbers are staggering. For people who think that, once ICE, picks these people up, puts them ankle monitor and all that these people are showing up for their court dates. They're not showing up for their court dates. They've never shown up for their court dates, and that's just a way for the country to, completely fall into chaos, because now you're going to have all these illegal aliens, and they're putting them on airplanes. They're putting them on commercial airliners that taxpayers are paying for. Say they want to go to New York. Bam, Texas to New York, there's your plane. Go get on the plane. Paid for by the taxpayers. They're getting free health care.
Yeah, you and I talked about, and they're also really dropping them off now in Florida.
Yeah.
And it has to do with changing the votes in states eventually.
Yeah.
By the way, I had a very reliable source on the air saying that, people are talking about, these illegal aliens, they don't care if they have COVID or not, and they're being tested, not being tested. Guess what I hear? They're being given ivermectin, is that what's called?
Yeah.
Ivermectin, yes. They're in that select few, that I have a list here, by the way, of the people who are exempt.
Yeah.
White House staff, Congress critters, legislative branch, municipal branch, CDC employees, FDA employees, postal employees. That's very interesting, that one really sticks out because, somebody's got to deliver all those votes that are coming in on those boxes.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then it gets NIAID employees, Pfizer employees, Moderna employees. They're exempt from the mandates. Okay, they don't have to get the shots, and illegal aliens. But see, I've heard so many people tell me, that the Congress critters are all taking, and they took ivermectin. And you can talk to some of them, and they'll say, yeah, that's what we took, It's been working for 100,000 years, and yet it's kind of hard for you to get it because it's only 4 cents a pill, I guess, right? Yeah.
Well, that's what we've seen with all of these over-the-counter COVID testing boxes as well. Now starting last Saturday, the government opened up a website, and you go in, you provide your address, and they'll mail you your free COVID test, which is a very simple process to actually go through and figure out the numbers. But what they were doing is they were leaving up to the pharmacy. So if you showed up at the pharmacy like at 8 a.m. when they opened, then you had a good chance that you were going to be able to get a COVID test and bring it home and do your home test. Well, for the last 2 weeks, the government's decided, no, we're not going to give any of those things. And the therapeutics where people are trying to take care of the symptoms on their own without the government, those have also kind of been pulled off the shelves because the government wants to at least in 2022, come out and say, look, we're the one that get masks. You got free masks. We're the one that sent you the free tests. We're the ones that, are your, big brother and sister in this world, and we're taking care of you, and don't worry about it. Look what we've done for you. We gave you this for free. Well, for free, who's paying for it for free? Because the government's broke. You know what I mean? Who's paying for it?
I know. They've been saying that all along. The shots are free. They're free. They're free. They're free. It's your taxes that are paying for it. Hey, let me ask you here, and I may get some flack for this one, but, you know, as long as COVID's around, they have so much authority over the American people. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is almost, you know, as bad as the Holocaust, except thank God they're not taking us off, you know, and putting us in internment camps. Mm-hmm. I mean, Australia is, but we're not doing it yet. But if they're giving you free COVID tests, wouldn't it be to their advantage if those tests were rigged to show more positive? You know, oh boy, it's really bad now. We've got to have a lot more shutdowns and more control over the people and more masks. Well, am I being like paranoid on that? Or
no, you're actually not, because the most common you know, over the counter COVID test. I mean, you go in and you read, and you actually go to I went to the CDC and looked at, you know, their regulations for this, and the actual box that they're sending out to everybody across the country has a very high percentage of putting out false positives. So they're sending something like that, and you could test. I mean, and if you test positive, you should probably go to the doctor to make sure that you did it correctly. But that it is worth noting that the box that they're sending to whoever requests it across the country has the highest number of false positives. And of course, the false positive is the number that they'll use to scare the American people to not go out and vote and insist that this all goes back through the mail system. But, you know, when you're seeing big pharma...
Gotta take that break, Kimberly. Hold that thought, all right? Keeping the people from going out to vote. I took one of those home tests, by the way. I just want to let you know. This was about a month ago, I guess. And something jumped out and slapped me because I wasn't wearing a mask. It said, take it again. Of course I made that up. Kimberly Dvorak. And it's the CRN Chuck Wilder with Kimberly Dvorak, Senior Foreign Policy Advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy, and talking about they're putting these people on the planes, taking them to all these different cities, trying to change the face of America, I guess would be the bottom line, right, Kimberly? Yeah.
Well, I mean, and this is a risk that the Democrats, it may work out in their favor or may not. But if we're looking at poll numbers again, the Democrats are losing the Latino votes out there because people who are in this country lawfully immigrated here, followed the rules, paid the money, and, you know, truly love this country. They're looking at this saying, okay, these people are streaming across the border. It's approximately 5,700 crossing the southern border every day, just a day. And people are looking at that and saying, look, we're struggling to go to the grocery store and buy food for our family, but these people are getting free food stamps, they're getting a free place to stay, they have health care provided, they can use their arrest warrants, multiple, apparently, that's okay to, you know, cross the border illegally on several occasions. These people are being put out there. They can get on public transportation for that, and all of this stuff is free for these people. And when you look at what our country is and where it is right now, especially with the, you know, inflation, you know, and especially with the supply chain, gas prices going up, you know, the middle class is being completely squeezed here. You know, the illegals seem to be getting a far better deal out of this whole situation than the American citizens who actually pay taxes, go to work every day, and take care of their families. But it's making it much more difficult, and that's what's very sad about all this as well.
You know, and I always point out the fact that if you say, you know, why is it that you people, you know, hate immigrants coming into the country?
Yeah.
Look at any country on planet Earth, and you will find out that the United States of America lets in more foreigners than any of the other countries.
Yeah.
It was 1 million a year, and now they've raised it to more, and now, since Biden got into office, it's more than 1 million, because, I mean, just on all the different things you can get in on, you know, it's
Yeah,
wow.
they've about doubled that, and I just also kind of want to leave the listener with this as well. We have a U.S. government who is getting ready to go to war with Russia over Ukraine and making all kinds of statements on foreign policy, saying you'll regret it, Russia, if you try to cross over and into Ukraine, which the part of that where they want to go back into that's actually Russian speaking was part of the USSR. So, it's not like they're just going to Italy and say, hey, we want to take over Italy. I mean, they're looking at what happened in Crimea. And to see that this country does not want to protect our own borders, that the Biden administration and their flacks all want to go to Ukraine and protect Ukraine's border. Well, I mean, how lunatic is that to think that people are crossing the border illegally and terrorists and illegal aliens and repeat offenders and criminals and gangs, they're all able to come across the border just fine. Don't worry about it. But we're about ready to go to war in the Eastern Europe bloc. That's just something that is insane to think that that's what the Biden administration is going to do. But they're talking a big talk right now.
Yeah, big talk is right. But you know what, and just my own personal opinion as we almost run out of time here is nothing's going to happen until after the Winter Olympics. Just got a funny feeling about that, So.
Well, last time Russia went and took Crimea, it was the London 2012 Olympics. And that's when Russia made their march all the way down to Crimea. So maybe they're going to do the same thing here.
See, and that's why you are the senior foreign policy advisor. All right? We need to send you to Mr. Biden so you can advise him. Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And once again, listeners, the website, thekdreport.com. Check it out. You'll see this report in its entirety and all her great reporting. Thank you very much, Kimberly.